everyone. Welcome back. This week, we are doing something a little bit different. We're combining some of my weekly garden chores with something interesting that I'm seeing in my garden. So, if you look here, you'll notice there's like green, fuzzy stuff, unpleasant things growing around some of the base of my plants. This, from my research, I've determined is possibly algae. You can see right here for some of my seedlings, there's literally a ring of green that starts to develop because algae loves water. They love nutrients as well, and they tend to steal those from the seedlings. So today, what we're doing is we're going to go in and we're going to first off clean some of my older nursery pods, and we're going to replace the water and clean out some seedlings that I already have started. So here you'll see I'm getting us going with some warm to hot water. I also decided to add a little bit of vinegar here as well, as that is good for getting rid of germs and kind of just desanitizing things. And I'm going to go in and we're really about to get some elbow grease going. So I decide that I'm going to use gloves, but as you'll see, they pretty much come on and off throughout the video. But this process pretty much was straightforward. The first step that I really needed to do was clean the empty pods. All right, so we're continuing to clean here. Actually, what had happened was I don't actually have one of those stoppers that keeps the water from flowing out. So I tried this like makeshift cap to plug it up. Long story short, it didn't work. I ended up losing all the water that I filled up, so I had to refill it. And instead, I just plugged it with some paper towel. So pro tip, if you don't have a stopper, there is ways to keep that water in there. So anyway, I went ahead and I refilled my sink and I decided to go in and add a little bit of dish soap. What I noticed with just the vinegar, obviously, is although it may have been sanitized, it wasn't really getting the stains out, and they really were, and they really were embedded in there. So I had to go in with a bit more elbow grease. I used a combination between a wash rag and I found an old toothbrush that I wasn't using, and just got down in there and scrubbed it on out. This was actually it was really a calming experience because I just sat there, turned on some YouTube videos, some of my favorite homesteaders, and I just really focused on getting this clean because once these are clean, we're going to refill them. And we really just want to make sure that once these are clean, there's no remnants of algae or anything left behind. So we're going to finish scrubbing these up and then we're getting started with our next step. All right, so if you remember in the beginning, I showed you some close-up images of these seed pods. One thing I want to make sure I do before I go in with any new tricks is I want to make sure that I clean out any algae particles, and specifically here, I'm taking out old seeds. So these seed pods actually have been sitting in these nurseries for about a little over 2 weeks and hadn't seen any growth. All I really have seen is algae growing across the top. So it's just basically dark green soil that's developing. But I imagine that that is taking away from the nutrients that the seeds should be gaining and using so that they can grow and develop and germinate. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going in and picking out any old seeds as well as picking out the soil that has patches of algae in it because I really just want to give these a fresh start. The other thing I'll note is that some of these seeds are actually from seed packets that I've had for like years. And seeds have a lot of potential and power in them, but over years, their likelihood of germinating does deteriorate, which I didn't know until I tried this out. And I realize now that that is very much true. So I'm really going to start back over with some fresh seeds that I just purchased from the store. And of course, like I said, with a better base. All right, so the first thing that I decided to try was applying cinnamon to the soil. So for those who know, cinnamon has been researched to have some antifungal and antimicrobial properties due to compounds like formaldehyde. So it can help inhibit the growth of fungi and bacteria in hydroponic systems. It's meant to be something that can help reduce algae growth when it's sprinkled on affected areas. So disrupting the algae cell structure can limit its ability to spread. It has been said that it's not meant to be a complete algae killer, and there are some downsides, like it's not soluble in water and your roots can be sensitive. So here we are reloading our pods back into the nurseries, and I'm now going to go in with the second step. So I didn't get a chance to record much of this on video originally, but the second thing that I looked into was something of more of a preventative measure, but also I'd say more of a like true algae killer. So hydrogen peroxide can be used in small quantities in water to help kill and reduce algae growth. It is again similar to cinnamon, where some people have had success with it. It is not something that, from what I've read, is a 100% foolproof. It's just a lot of people have tried it, and one thing about experience, I like to trust it, and I figured we might as well test it out. All right, so the last thing I'm doing before I take these nurseries back to the system is I'm planting the actual seed. I decided this time around to replant some cilantro and parsley because those are the two that I currently do not have, and I actually really, really love both cilantro and parsley in cooking, so I want to see if I can get a good crop growing. And I decided to add a few more seeds this time, so I think I did like 3 to 4 per pod. It's a good practice so that the likelihood of you having a successful seedling is increased by having multiple seeds. All right, so here was the fun part, and I have to admit, I kind of got a little carried away as I started doing this. Once the seeds were taken care of, as you can see, I had about 6 plants that were already growing. This is a sage plant that I'm doing right here, but I decided let's go ahead and try this cinnamon thing out on the rest of my herbs. I went ahead and just with this actually is a broken nail brush that I don't use anymore. I decided to grab something I wasn't using and just lightly pat the cinnamon into the surface of the soil. Again, we don't want it to get into the water because it's not water soluble, but I just went ahead and I went ham. So we'll see how these turn out. I'm going to check back in a couple of days, but I'm feeling pretty proud of myself now. So we successfully put in some preventative and even antifungal measures, and our garden's looking pretty good. All right, guys, so it's been 6 days since I planted these seeds, and I'm not necessarily checking for germination just yet. If you remember, when I planted these, when I replanted these, excuse me, I was testing out a system for the soil, okay, what was I doing? I was testing out a system to keep algae production in the nursery pod down, to keep it low. So previously, what I had seen that the water pretty much was turning green within like 3 or 4 days, and there would be a lot of like algae buildup along the outer edge. And algae is not good, right? Because it feeds off of the nutrients in the water and the nutrients that the seed is supposed to be getting so that it can grow and germinate and do all the things, right? So algae bad, we want to keep that down, if not eliminate it at all, completely. Because of the environment, moist, wet, water, all that good stuff, it's a natural place for algae to grow. So these are the pods that I planted 6 days ago. And as you can see, the water is not green. Now there is a tint, right? That's expected because it's soil, right? So there's some soil that has come out. But this is a vast difference. Let's check this one. A vast difference compared to what I've seen before. And even right there, you can see there is some green outbreak, but not nearly as much. Not even like, I would say nearly a complete 85 to 90% reduction. You may not be able to get rid of all of it, right? But getting rid of the majority of it, that's huge. And I mean, I think some of these seeds, I need to double check the packages. They take a little longer to germinate, like 14 days. So it's going to take them another week. I will be able to confirm once they do start germinating that that is the case. So I can't say yet whether or not the water has impacted the germination of the seeds. I'll have to wait until we get to their time frame and see what happens. But we can take a closer look here. You'll see overall, and I'll see if I have any pictures of how this used to look. But again, it's a stark difference compared to what it has been before. So overall, these pods are brown and healthy. However, I do see a couple of spots, like that little bubble right there, that's some algae trying to grow, and there's some on the edges. I do see a few spots where some is trying to grow. And of course, like I said, that is what you would expect, that it's not going to completely go away, but you should see a huge decrease. And this is definitely a vast difference in what it looked like before. So anyway, all that to say, I am happy so far with results. As you can see, we do have this oregano plant growing here. This has been growing. I might want to look a little bit more into oregano though, because that seed has been in there for actually more than a week. It's probably going on 3 weeks now. I just kind of left it there because I wanted to see what it would do. But yeah, this is where we are. I'm putting the domes back on these and I'm gonna place them back under the light. But I just wanted to show y'all the difference in where we were from initially putting them out there to today. So yeah, we will, like I said, stay tuned. It's my little experiment that I'm doing. And yeah. Oh, and I didn't show you, so what I went ahead and did was, these are herb seeds that had already sprouted. I have 3 sage plants. So 1, 2, and then 3 over here by Big Mama. And then I have 3 basil plants, which are thriving very well, as you can see. So they had some algae growth on the surface of their soil. And the cinnamon, I think, is doing a great job because it appears to be dying back, or at least I'll say this, it does not appear to be getting greener or growing in any other spaces. So that's a good sign. Feel like it's doing what it's supposed to do. So that's where we are. We're excited.